it was a lot of like saying yes to every experience because you just don't know. And it's like, I'd rather go through an experience for a little while and be like, okay, this is not something I like, than have regrets of like not trying it.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here.
Jahaan loves that part of her job is to talk to strong women who work in the sports industry. In every conversation, she is left blown away by the strength, resilience, and coverage of the women she interviews. The same goes for Julie Hershkowitz, Senior Associate for Whoop Labs. Julie opens up and shares why and how she said yes to everything early in her career, how she is building relationships internally as a new employee, why she believes she is good at everything, how she managed herself while working in a toxic work environment, and why she feels the need to talk to her manager about the elephant in the room. You don't want to miss a second of their conversation. All right, Game of Her Own listeners, let's do this.
Julie, welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right. Well, I got to ask you my first question that I ask everybody. And I actually don't think I know this answer from you. And for those of you listening, Julie and I know each other from Super Bowl, although we have the same background, kind of, because we both worked at the Red Sox. Julie, so tell us, when did you first fall in love with sports?
That's a really tough question because I probably was in the womb of my mom when that happened. My mom is a huge sports fan. She was actually a sports reporter for her college paper back in the 70s when that was like not a female thing to do.
That's hard.
Yeah. And that's really hard. And she has a ton of stories, and she actually has told me a lot of them about how hard it was for her to be in locker rooms. And, you know, even as collegiate athletes, like that was really tough. She really instilled it in me. My dad was always athletic and he was a baseball umpire. And so he was a collegiate athlete too. And he wrestled and played baseball. But my mom covered like the Islanders during that 1980s run where they won 3 Stanley Cups or more in a row. So I would say then there's like photos of me at Shea Stadium, like in my mom's belly. So, so I would say then, but my earliest real like memories of loving sports were probably when I was turning like 9 or 10. That was really when I started to really care and follow sports religiously. And it's kind of hasn't stopped since then. So
what were your teams then?
So I grew up in New York City. So I tell people that I grew up in like a mixed marriage. So my mom's a Mets fan. My dad was a Yankees fan. And so growing up, I kind of liked whichever team I liked the parent more of that day. I joke about that, but I was a Mets fan as a kid and then a Yankees fan because they were a better team. I root for the Mets now and of course the Red Sox.
Wow. Were they like a little like disappointed? And bad. I use that term loosely when you got the job at the Red Sox. They were not disappointed. My mom was really excited, but she also was like, after my first day, I remember distinctly, she was like, do I need to send you any Benadryl? Are you doing okay? Like, are you allergic? But no, it's been really great. And
she's been super supportive.
Did you always want to work in sports?
I think that I never really thought about it because I never knew any women that worked in sports besides my mom, and I didn't want to be a journalist. So I thought like that was the only thing that you could do. I just didn't have any other context about like what sports teams did or what it was like, I think, until I was in college. And even then I was kind of like, well, those jobs are really hard to get. Like, how do you even do that? I never really had any modern female role models in sports. So no, not until I finished my undergraduate degree and was going into graduate school. I had a mentor who told me that I could. And he actually introduced me to folks at the Red Sox. And that's kind of where it went from there. So my sports career is very new-ish, I would say. Like I've had so many careers, I would say. And when I turned 30 was my first year in sports, and I'm 38 right now. So I've done like a lot in a short amount of time. And I really do attribute it to having like the right people around me and really knowing kind of to go with the flow and kind of figure out like what I wanted based on my experiences and what I was good at. And listening to other people tell me like what I was really good at, I think has been really helpful for me.
Okay. So 2 questions. First one, how like go with the flow? Say more.
So I've worked with undergraduate students, and I in my job now, I actually work with a lot of younger women in their career, and they're very driven, and it's fantastic. And they're also very like, this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to do it. And I love that. And I also want to say, but you're limiting yourself to like your like narrow scope of what you think you want to do. Whereas for me, I was in fan services and then wound up being in corporate partnerships. And I never thought that that would be something that I would love. But somebody looked at me and said, you work really hard at making sure that our fans are great. And I think that you would be really good at the corporate stuff. Why don't you try it? And so it was a lot of like saying yes to every experience because you just don't know. And it's like, I'd rather go through an experience for a little while and be like, okay, this is not something I like, than have regrets of like not trying it, you know? And you just don't know who you're going to meet during those experiences that are going to unlock other experiences. And I think my career has been that. If I could like sum it up in any way, it's been a bunch of relationships and experiences and meeting different people because I've said yes to being in the room.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to learn and I was hungry, and I was like, well, if I'm going to maximize my time here, like let's figure out exactly what I want.
How did you decipher like what to say yes to and what not to? Did you have any what did you listen to?
I didn't. I literally, Jahaan said yes to everything. Like looking back at it, I'm grateful that I did. And I have no idea how I did it, but I just think like when you're young in your career and you're just learning, for me, that was like the best thing to do, was just to continue to say yes and to do the job well so that you would get experience and also get noticed. And then when you have the experience and you've said yes so many times, eventually you'll be able to say no to different things and you can be a little bit more discerning, but you also then have a ton of experience behind you to be able to back that up. So yeah, I mean, my strategy was literally just to say yes to things, even if I didn't know what it actually meant. And one of my favorite phrases that a mentor to me said was like, okay, we'll figure it out. And like, that's like so nerve wracking because it's like, okay, like I can't ask so many more questions. I just have to figure it out. But it also meant that she like trusted me to figure it out.
Tell me this, you said you listened to people and what they said about what you were good at. Mm-hmm. Did sometimes people say things you were good at and you're like, but I hate doing that. Like, how did you know to listen to them? And like, what if they said, or it was something that you were like, wait, I thought I was really good at this. And this person isn't saying anything. Like, do you know what I mean? How did you decipher who to listen to? I
think it was people who had been in the business for a long time. So I kind of was like, okay, well, if you see something in me, that must mean that you see it. So like, maybe I should try it. And I think I was always really good at convincing myself that I could do anything.
Say more. Tell us more about that.
I mean, my mom is here, so maybe I should bring her on here, but she really like instilled that in me. I think that it was like you had the ability to do whatever you wanted to do and you just had to get yourself there. And I also think like if you don't know if you're good at it or not, then you have to try it. It's like I this analogy is kind of funny, but I always laugh at people who are like, I don't like strawberries. And I'm like, how could you not like strawberries? Like, are you allergic? And they're like, no, I've just never tried them, but they don't look good. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like you have to, how do you know that you don't like something or you don't want to do something if you've never tried it? And it's like, if you have tried it, sure. And you know, you don't like it, then sure. But if you haven't tried it, then how can you like really say that you're not good at it or you don't like it? I guess that's just my opinion. And it's something that has like served me well in my career.
Were you afraid when you tried the things that you didn't know you were good at?
Yeah, of course. Of course. You're always afraid. And I think like that's where having great people around you for sounding boards, like even like in and out of your career, like I think it's really important to have people around you that are outside your organization, whether that's friends or family or people who you've met through networking, being able to just say like, okay, what's the good, the bad, the ugly going to be? I mean, sometimes you don't know those things. Like there's a lot of times where I thought that there would be more good than ugly. And, you know, it didn't turn out that way. But it's like I wouldn't be who I am now and I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't raise my hand to do all of these things.
All right. Tell everybody what you do now and who you do it for.
I work for a wearable tech company called Whoop, and we are, I would say, so much more than a fitness tracker, more of like a health tracker. And I work in the lab, which is really cool that we have our own labs where we can really test the validity of our product and of our new software and hardware that come in. My title is Whoop Lab Senior Associate, which really means that I'm responsible for ensuring that we have a diverse amount of people that come into the lab to test the product. I use like all of my connections in Boston in both the fitness world and the non-fitness world to get people in and excited to come in and test the product. And I work with pretty much every other team within the company to make sure that our protocols are met and to just really bring people into the lab. And it's really fun. It's actually like a position that I didn't know existed until I was recruited for it. And I think it really marries all of my career path, my entire career path, and the stuff that I'm really passionate about, which is relationship building in one position.
How long have you been there?
I started in May. And
you are brand new.
Yeah. I'm brand new, and I was joking because like every day I would meet new people and I'd be like, hi, I'm Julie. This is day 6. and Whoop has only been around for about 10 years now. And it's still very much like a startup culture, and it's really, really fun. People joke like, oh, you've been here 2 months. That's like 6 months in Whoop time.
Yeah, I'm sure. I like the whoop time. So tell me what you did I'm trying to picture you like your first, like, I mean, I'm trying to do math and it's not working.
It's not
you guys
working.
Can't see me, but I'm like rubbing my eyes like, wait, what's the math here? So you haven't even been there 90 days. No. I had to like look at my calendar and be like, nope.
No, so July 9th will be 60 days. Yeah.
Geez, so tell
like,
us.
It feels like a longer amount of time, but it's not.
That just goes for sports anyway. Mm-hmm. It just seems like that way. You're big into relationship building. So what does it look like when you, I feel like a lot of people are starting new jobs now, you know, starting or working in new departments. And for somebody who likes to build relationships, how are you doing that internally?
So
as the new girl?
Yeah, for sure. And it was part of my onboarding to make what we call coffee dates with everybody. So different stakeholders, and actually the woman that she's my direct report, but we're really a team. Before I even started, she set up all these coffee dates with different stakeholders for me that she thought that I should meet, that my supervisor thought that I should meet. And then I really spent the first 30 days like sitting down and having coffee and meeting people to talk about what their role is and how I saw my role helping them. And that's really like how you get to know everybody in your organization, especially so I'm actually like, I think employee one, I'm a little bit over 1,000. It's a bigger organization, but it's still pretty small in regards to like what I think our footprint will be in the next 10 years. And a lot of us work in the Boston, HQ, which is like right in Kenmore Square, which is like so funny to have Fenway like right there too.
Nice.
But yeah, like I just spent I took the time to meet a ton of people, like even people that I had no idea what they did and no idea if I would ever interact with, and really just like be myself. And we talk about it at Whoop. One of our like values is hiring people at the intersection of like high intensity and high humility. And I found every single person to be that way, and it's been amazing. And everybody is willing to, take 15 to 30 minutes out of their day to just talk to you and meet you. And so the culture has been amazing. And I think even if it wasn't encouraged, I would have done that anyway. I think like going out and meeting people and finding out like what they do on a daily basis and how you may interact with them in the future is like something that I've always loved to do, because I always want people to know like who I am and like what I do and how I can help them. And so I think like that's like super important as well.
Yeah. Talk more about this high intensity and high humility. Yeah. Say that one more time.
One of our core values at Whoop is that we hire people at the intersection of being high intense and having high humility, which means that, you and I can have a conversation because we move so fast, right? It's like you and I can have a conversation about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and also like respect our opinion about it. And we just work at a really fast pace. I think like you have to really want to work, be driven and work really hard and know that things are going to be constantly changing. And also know that like you're going to work as a team and your idea might not be the best idea, and to be humble about it. I know it's like I'm still shiny and new, but I've really never worked at an organization where I felt like there was no real hierarchy. It was like everybody is really equal and you can work together for a common goal. And to like really just see the product develop like in front of my eyes, like at the lab, has been incredible. And I was a Whoop, I'm showing Jahaan my Whoop strap, which sits on my wrist currently. But I was a Whoop user for about a year before I joined the company. So I was a believer to begin with. And I think like that helps, but it's hard not to be when you're at the company too.
I really like that. The high intensity and high humility. Hey, Jahaan here. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I'm sure you are thinking about your own career right now and how you can pull out in front of the pack to take your career to the next level. For 18 years, supporting women in sports has been my favorite part of my career, and I would love to support you. Whether it's joining my free Game of Her Own community or one of my one-on-one coaching programs, I am here for you. Send me a message at jblake@jahaanblake.com or DM me on Instagram @JahaanBlake, and let's schedule a time to have a free session. I cannot wait to hear from you. All right, let's get back to why you're here. Okay, so you're a big relationship person, networking person. You gave us a sneak peek in how to be present and meet people in the first 30, 60, whatever days of your job. I love the coffee chats. I tell people all the time, just meet them, figure out. I mean, at the very least, if you don't know what to talk about, just talk about what they do and how you guys are going to work together.
For sure.
How your work like crosses, intersects.
You might not even know. For me, someone gave me this advice on my first day. I met with her my first day and she was like, I promise you that like all of the puzzle pieces will start to fit. You'll get another puzzle piece this day, another puzzle piece that day. And then all of a sudden you'll have like half your puzzle done and you'll realize like, oh, this is how we connect and this is what we do.
Love that.
Yeah. And I think like having patience and just really being open and just being yourself and just taking the time to chat with people. And the Whoop culture has been so great with that. It's like they are so patient about taking the first 30 days to really like walk, and like learn to walk before you like run. And that has been something that has been amazing. And I think will like have really set me up for success in my position, because I've really taken the time, even the first 60 days, to like absorb everything. And because I feel like you can't come in and just be like, oh, I'm going to change all of this that's been happening successfully or not for so long without like knowing the history, knowing the background, knowing why, and knowing who and who all the power players are. And yeah, so it's been really great.
You shared that you're 38. So has it been this way at other jobs that you've had? I mean, that was a quick no. That was a quick no.
No, it hasn't. And it hasn't always been like an easy road for me in my career. And I think that I'm glad that I found Whoop and its culture, or I guess they found me, but I'm glad that we're together now as opposed to at the beginning of my career, because I think I would have been like, oh my God, everything is this, is like this, and it's not. And so now I can really like appreciate it a whole lot more because I've been in some kind of toxic, I guess not kind of, but like pretty toxic work environments. If you don't have trust, like in your direct reports, and you want to control a lot of things. And so I've been in a lot of different types of supervisory relationships with different people in my career. And so you kind of take the good from the bad to figure out like what kind of supervisor you want to be as well.
How do you survive in a toxic work environment?
How?
I mean, like you seem like a great person. You don't seem like you have visible scars, right? And when I say that, I mean like we've worked together, and usually people who come, not usually, that's wrong. There are times when people who come from toxic work environments bring that with them to their next role and don't even realize it's wrong, or sometimes don't realize that what they're doing. And you don't seem that way. You seem the complete opposite of somebody who has been through some toxic work environments.
Well, first of all, thank you, because
You're
I think it's a lot of like going back to that conversation of like other people see things in you that you might not see in yourself. So thank you. I appreciate that. The easy answer is therapy. And, taking that time to process a lot of this. And what I mean is like knowing that it's not you, it's the environment or the culture. And also just like really knowing myself and knowing that like I left for a reason. It's not like I left opportunities because, it was all sunshine and roses. I would say like a lot of the few opportunities that I've had that have been toxic, I've left because they've been toxic. And I've left because it was just like too much for me. And I found out that like it was better for me to leave without a plan than it was for me to stay and just not survive in the environment. And I mean, that decision is very tough. It took a year or more for me to make that decision, but I finally got to a point where, it was just not good for my career to stay there because I was not the great person that I am in that environment. I had to make the decision, and you make the decision. I think for me, I made the decision before it became a negative for me to go.
Right. How did you realize you were in a toxic work environment? Do you know what I mean? Like some people don't like you're there for so long and then you just, sometimes you're just like, wait, is it me? Is this normal? Like, do I need to like, honestly, toughen up, or like, how did you know?
You kind of talk to people and you ask, like, does this seem normal? Like really, like therapy, mentors, you bring the situation up to people who are not living in it every day and you ask them.
It's so funny you say that, because sometimes I feel like when you bring situations to somebody who's not living it every day, sometimes you discredit them. It's like, well, you just don't get it.
Right.
Did you go through that at all?
Yeah, of course. But when it was like the next month, we were having our like monthly friend dinner date and I'm bringing up the same stuff.
Yes.
And they're like, okay, so we talked about this. Like, what is your plan? And I'd be like, oh, okay.
That's a really good friend. Not to have that conversation with you again. Like, just be like, to have it, but also be like, hey, so we already talked about this. Like,
for sure.
Having the same conversation.
Absolutely. And I think like, looking back, you look back and you're like, how did I survive that? And like, why did I put myself through that? And honestly, like a lot of my like most amazing clients and still good relationships and people that, I could pick up the phone and ask, in my current job for them to help came out of that. So like, it wasn't all bad. And I think what like makes a toxic work environment is different for some people. But for me, it's more like, having a supervisor that cares, that supports you, that wants you to grow, that's not like micromanaging you or sitting over you, that, isn't threatened by you, being really good at your job. That could be everybody's work environment. I don't know. Like,
right.
I think especially for women, it's hard. I've had a lot of male supervisors, and they've been good in ways, they've been not good in ways. And I think like for me, it's been hard. It's been great. Now I have a female supervisor and she's wonderful and she's so beyond supportive. It's like, I look at her and I go, are you real? Like, but you kind of have to figure out like what it is that you can handle and what it is that you don't want to. And I think it's harder when you're younger in your career because you like want to do all the things, and it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. But if you leave and you're courageous enough to leave, right? So I think it takes courage to leave those situations.
For sure.
So if you're courageous enough to leave, there is other stuff out there.
Absolutely.
Like, that's the one thing. Like it's so easy. And I was talking to another guest about this. It's just so easy to get caught up and just want to stay. And I remember I talked to somebody, a potential client, and she was just in tears on the call. And, it just seemed like she was just like, she just couldn't see, I forget the saying, but like, she just couldn't see, what's it? The forest from the trees?
For the trees. Yeah.
Or the trees from the forest.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
When you're in it, it is so hard. And I think for me, it was like, okay, I had all my ducks in a row. I had the support of my boyfriend, who we're still together, which is great. And I think like leaving that job is another reason why we're still together. It was like, okay, Julie, like you have great skills and you can always make money and you can survive, but you're not going to survive if you stay here. And I think for me, it was more of like, I was not being myself outside of work to other people. And I think it was at that point where I was like, and it was like hard to get up in the morning and like go to work, even when like, you're working in sports and you love the actual job that you're doing, but being around like the toxic environment just became too much. It was just like, it was way too much. It was like at that point where you're like, okay, there has to be a change. It's like the anxiety provoking actions are worse for me than the toxic environment. And so once I made the decision to leave, it was like a weight had been lifted and the sun came out and it was like great. It was great.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's for anybody who's listening, who's in a toxic work environment, like they probably they need to hear that. Like the sun will come out. It is okay. Like you just got to step away. Did you have another job lined up, or did you just get out?
I had taken a job. This is how you knew my work environment was so bad. In the off season, I had taken a job at Lululemon for fun. Like I took another job for fun. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And so that job actually really worked with me, and they were like, okay, you can come on full time. And so I worked with them before I made the decision to leave so that I would have like a full-time job with benefits before I left. But I will also say that there was another time that I left a job where I didn't have anything because I just needed to. And there are so many options out there for you to, make money, get a job. You can always do anything like drive Uber, Instacart, DoorDash. You can do a ton of stuff while you're figuring out the next step. And I think like everything works out. You just kind of have to trust your gut and trust the process. Yeah. And a lot of times when you're in a toxic environment, you can't take a step back to see how good you are because you're not being told that. And so when you're not under that cloud, it's easier for you to like reach out to folks. And I remember actually, I don't know if you remember this, but I think you will, but I reached out to you because I was kind of like, I don't know what to do here. You were one of those people that I said like, is this really toxic or is this how it is?
Right.
And you were like, no. You were like, and you were like, okay, let's connect with other people. Let's see like how, like where you want your career to go. And I think it's just like being able to kind of reach out to folks and say like, got to keep going. Yeah, but that's like where mentors and relationships really come in, like having those people that you can pick up the phone and call and say like, hey, like, is this real? And what can I do? Because I think having someone say to you, like, it's okay. Like you can always make money. You can always get health insurance. Like you can always do whatever. It's not going to be that bad, but you got to take care of yourself first.
And being able to like pick up the phone and talk to people in your network about it. Like talk to people in your network about things that when they're going wrong. Right. Like so often we just want to be like, this job is going well. I want to get the next job. What do you, like, what advice would you give me? Like, we're so focused on like being seen in this best light, but sometimes you have to like pick up the phone and be like, okay, I'm not doing well here. I don't think it's me.
Yeah.
Like, what advice would you give me? Right. Like just being really honest and vulnerable.
Yes, 1000%, and being vulnerable. And I have so much trouble not being vulnerable that like when I know that I'm not being my authentic self is when that's like a trigger where you're like, oh, okay, if I don't feel safe enough to be my authentic self in this environment, that it's time to consider like why, like the who, what, when, where, why, all of that. And I even felt supported enough to go to like people above my supervisor and really talk it out. And there was just like a lot of stuff up in the air, and it just wasn't, the environment wasn't going to change. So once I had that answer, I was like, okay, bye.
Wow. So you had the courage to go up and over and up, however you want to picture it. Like that.
And I actually had a better relationship with people, ownership than I did my direct supervisor. That was like kind of why I had such a poor relationship with my supervisor, because it was very much when you're a person who is able to have like really easy and powerful relationships with people in the work environment where people like come to you and people trust you, people who don't have that characteristic and don't know how to do that get very threatened by that, even though it's easier for me to teach people how to do that than to not. So yeah, I think it was very much like they were threatened by like how much I knew, and they didn't want me to be better in my role because I think they thought I wanted to take their role, which was not the case. So I think like that really hurt. That really hurts. It can hurt, but you have to be stronger to be like, okay, well, that's not a me thing. That's a them thing. But I think like I found that as a woman, like in sports all the time, even with other women. And this is where like I think the sports culture has to change. And I think it is slowly changing, where you want the person that you're supervising to be better than you, to do better things than you, not to like keep them under you so that they're not, because, it makes you look better if the people around you are doing really well.
Yes.
And I think like that, that's not a concept that a lot of people who are in sports, or I mean, in general, it's a hard concept. And I think like that's where like the high intensity and high humility comes in at Whoop, because we always want people to thrive and be better than us. I had an amazing mentor. He was probably like one of my first mentors who taught me that, who was like, you always want to have people around you do better than you, because it shows that you care about them, and it shows that, you're willing to have them outlast you. That's been something that has been missing in a lot of jobs that I've had in the past.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find. People talk about it, and it's like that narrative that is out there, but I don't always know that people, when it comes down to doing it, it's tough, and your ego gets in the way. Like,
for sure.
Right. Like I think we've all been there, for those of us who have like managed people, where we're just like, wait a second, if they're better than me, like, what does that mean for me? And that's a definitely an opportunity for a moment of self-reflection. Let me ask you this last question, and then we can move on from toxic work environments. But I always like when people share about it, because it's nice for everyone to know that they're not alone.
For sure.
But you said that you have no problem being vulnerable. So did you in the past in any of your jobs where you felt like you were in a toxic work environment, did you talk to your manager about how you felt?
Yeah,
man,
for sure. Only because it got to the point where it was like this elephant was in the room, and it's like, how do we, move through this? And I mean, sometimes you move through it and sometimes you can't, but I don't ever want to be in a situation where I haven't done everything that I think that I could have done to make it a successful relationship or a successful, environment. And in that environment, it was like, I also was like shielding my direct reports from a lot of it too. It was tough. And then, when I left, that was the part that I had a lot of trouble with, was like leaving people who I had been really invested in. And I'm still invested in their growth and development. And we talk all the time, but like leaving them in this, like toxic environment without being able to be there to advocate for them and to shield them from a lot of the BS. And I'm telling you, Jahaan, it's like, for me, I don't know what it is, but like my superpower is like being my authentic and vulnerable self. And even when I like try to not be that way, it like feels so icky that I'm like, can I start over? Because like, it just doesn't feel good to me to be any other way. And And I feel like, I credit my mom because she's always her authentic self. And I credit like a lot of the women in my life that have taught me how to do that. My grandmother, my aunts, everybody around me growing up that really fostered that environment for me.
Man. Well, thank you for sharing all that.
Oh my gosh, of course. I agree with you. I think it's super important for people to know that it's okay, that unfortunately it's going to happen. So you might not be in one now, but you need to recognize like what the signs are. So like, and just trust your gut and like reach out. You might need someone else to tell you.
I love it. Now, I don't know how to transition from toxic work environment to rapid fire questions, nor did I think we were going to spend that much time there, but it was just good stuff. So I couldn't not ask you questions. Are you ready for rapid fire?
Yes, I feel like, in like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, it's like,
I should put in some sound effects. Stephanie, we need you to put in sound effects. All right. 12 questions. First thing that comes to mind. This is so much lighter than what we were talking about. What is your favorite sports moment?
The first one that came to mind was David Ortiz in 2013. In the ALCS, he hit that home run against Detroit. And it was the one, where the outfielder like flipped over the bullpen at Fenway. And I was literally standing like right there.
That's crazy.
It was, 2013, we could have a whole discussion about that because that was my first year with the Red Sox. And of course, they won the World Series that year. And it was the most amazing ride of my life that whole year. So
you're making me want to go down memory lane, but I won't. This is rapid fire. Okay. What is something people always get wrong about you?
Something people always get wrong about me, that I'm perfect. No, I don't know.
I was like, I'm sorry, what?
I think like people always get it wrong that I just speak my mind all the time. So sometimes people think it can be mean, but it's never mean. It's always from love. And the meaner, I use in air quotations, but the more real I am with you, the more I like you and the more I trust you. So.
All right. Well, I feel like you like me because you were definitely real on this episode. What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
One food I wouldn't want to give up is my mom's meatballs.
Are you a morning person or a night person?
Both.
Interesting.
I don't really know how it is. There are a lot of days where I like to wake up early in the morning and get that morning routine going. And there's also, I have a nighttime routine, but it usually is like staying up late and reading or, watching sports.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving. I love
What job would you absolutely be horrible at doing?
Oh my gosh. Anything that had to be with like really or like organizing a ton of things. Spreadsheets. I can do like one or two, but if I have to live in a spreadsheet, I like can't do that.
What product would you stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I've been using this vitamin C serum.
Drunk Elephant?
No, but that's a good one too. No, Frey Skincare. If they stop selling it, I would really, yes. It has made my skin like so soft. I'm like touching my face now for those of you that can't see, but it's amazing.
Well, can you send the link and I'll put it in the show notes for everybody? Mm-hmm. I feel like I've had the same one for like 4 years. I need to like switch it up.
Yeah, it's new. It's a new product. So I'm obsessed with it.
All right. What is your favorite app?
Instagram.
Yeah, I understand. Who's your biggest inspiration in life?
My mom.
Aww. As a child, what did you want to become when you grew up?
Oh, a marine biologist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wanted to like,
I can like see
play
that.
with the fish. Yeah. I like loved being at the aquarium and wanted to play with the fish.
Yeah, I can see that. All right. Last one. Finish the sentence. The future of women working in sports is
bright.
I agree. Julie, this has been amazing. If someone wants to get in touch with you, how can they go about doing it?
Easiest way would probably be on LinkedIn. Just look for me, Julie. It's just Julie Hershkowitz. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to talk more about anything, about networking, mentorships, my career, women in sports, all of that. So I appreciate the time, Jahaan, and it's been wonderful.
It has been wonderful. Thank you for coming on.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake. and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.